Several days ago I did a video about the militia, the Oath Keepers, strong believers in the Constitution, who came to Ferguson after the grand jury decision allowing the police officer Darren Wilson to get away with killing an unarmed black teen. They came down with the express intention of protecting private property for people while announcing that they had the intention of using lethal force against protesters and rioters if they felt it was necessary. Just a few days ago, the police in Ferguson attempted to force the militia from the city, citing a municipal ordinance that required licensing private security operations. The militia refused to disperse correctly, stating that the ordinance only applies to for-profit businesses, while the group said it was made up of volunteers. Spokesman for the St. Louis County Police, Sean McGuire, said, "The reason the Oath Keepers were not allowed to remain on the rooftops is that the individuals from the group do not adhere to the St. Louis County Ordinance regulating security officers, couriers, and guards. As a matter of public safety, the St. Louis County Police Department must adhere to our policies and ensure security personnel have the required backgrounds and qualifications to perform such a role." It is absolutely true that the police were actually wrong. These regulations only adhere to for-profit entities. These men are volunteers, which means they actually do not fall under the jurisdiction of this law. So they did return right back to doing their jobs, climbing right back up on the roofs and performing the function that they were performing. Yet I do, however, notice that white people with guns were standing there refusing police orders, whether those orders were legitimate or not. And none of them got shot, because there were protesters in Ferguson who stood there, didn't do anything other than yell, didn't present any kind of a threat, and legitimately had a legal right to be there, a constitutional right to protest. Yet they were shot at with, pepper spray, I'm sure rubber bullets, flashbangs, smoke grenades, stuff like that. How come the white people didn't get beat up? How come they didn't even get hit? Frankly, if they had been, I'm not sure people would have really cared that much. But enough about that. Isn't it very interesting that these people who their idea is to defend the Constitution and the ideas of the Constitution specifically state that they're there to protect private property? Isn't it strange that these are the same people who showed up for the Bundy Ranch? Because this, the rancher who didn't want to pay taxes for using land that he wasn't supposed to be using. But isn't it amazing how they declare their intention to be defending property? When they went to defend Bundy, it was defending freedom, defending his rights. Yet, even by their own acknowledgement, the Ferguson police and the St. Louis police massively violate people's civil rights. They even admit it in their own previous statements. Yet I couldn't help but notice that the guns were aimed at people who were rightfully angry at a wrong that was being committed against them. But they're there to protect property. Now, isn't this the kind of tremendous contradiction that we see? Free speech and to fight oppression is of course a right, but property is also a right. So what happens when these two things come into conflict? Guess which side the people who believe in the Constitution stand on? They stand on the side of property. If they have to choose between freedom from tyranny and owning property, they've clearly declared their intention to support the ownership of property. I think that speaks very much to the right-wing mentality. Despite all of their bluster about freedom and democracy and you can't tell me what to do, it really comes down to the ownership of property and not actually freedom itself. Because when they're left with that choice, they certainly choose property over fighting tyranny.